29.
28 seconds.
27.
26.
25 seconds.
24. 23.
22 seconds.
21 seconds.
20 seconds.
19.
18.
17 seconds.
16.
15 seconds.
14.
13 seconds.
12.
11. 10 seconds. 9.
8.
7.
6.
What?
Copy.
5 seconds.
3, 2, 1.
Noch nee, welcome cadets to Subspace Chatter. This week we'll be scanning the 4th episode of Starfleet Academy, Vox in Excelso, so lower shields and prepare to be boarded by Klingon warriors as we bang our bat'leths and cranial ridges together while discussing this episode. Joining me today are a group of experienced fellow warriors from Kronos. Let's introduce ourselves.
Which direction are we going?
Would you like to go first, Steve?
I guess so. I'm Lieutenant Commander Eve Zellick. I'm a director of the College of Music for the Real Life Starfleet Fandom Academy, so glad to be here.
And Michelle?
I'm Michelle. I am actually one of the writers on Dan's website and have recently published a review of this one.
Cool. And Dallas?
Hi, I'm Dallas, lifelong Star Trek fan, former writer of the Get Trek sci-fi speculations podcast and blog, and yeah, just glad to be here.
And we have joining us
Okay,
as well.
there we go.
There she is.
Here I am. Sorry, it's a little tough getting up this morning.
Welcome. Do you want to?
Thank
We've
you.
been introducing ourselves. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. I'm Phyllis. I was a Star Trek writer on Enterprise and Voyager, and I am really happy to be here.
Cool. Class is now in session. Welcome back to the Academy. So the first question is, what is your overall opinion of this episode, and what do you think it had to say in general? Would you like to go first, Steve?
Overall opinion, I will say that some of this is not holding my interest. I find that that's too much of, here's the character and why you should care, rather than letting us see the characters unfold and learning about why we should care about them. It does have its high points. I found, to me, the debate was the most interesting part, and the debate styles of the different cadets. And I do like that we're getting little bits of reveals about our Kionian friend. I definitely saw some parallels too between Nala and our Klingon. I don't know if he's an ambassador or what his position truly is, but our head of the Klingons there reminded me a lot of Jadzia reuniting with the Klingons those few times in Deep Space Nine when she reunites with the older Klingon warriors. So I like that part, but I'm kind of on the fence about this one.
Michelle?
Right. Well, when I watch this, it takes a lot to actually upset me and make me cry. And this did this, looking at the theme of loss, which comes through this episode, that actually really got me emotionally. And I did actually to some degree, I actually felt sorry for Jaden, because he'd gone through loss. He loss of his brother and the Klingons. It was good to get an answer as to what had happened to them since between the 24th and 32nd centuries. But it was actually quite sad to learn what had happened to them after the burn, and that they turned into just a scattered diaspora.
But Dallas?
I think the last two episodes of Academy, they didn't really stick out to me, but this one, it tended to elevate itself. I believe that there was plenty of themes of not only loss, as Michelle has mentioned, but also a lot of comparisons to liberal politics in general, whether it be the well-meaning but ultimately clumsy and counterproductive white liberal trying to help out to, JD's.
This is a guy who doesn't get political unless he sees it on TV. Then he
safer
gets
that
political.
Right. I
So-
thought it was. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
That's okay.
Okay. I thought it was the most Star Trekky of the episodes we've seen so far, in its attempt to have a larger theme and sort of involve everybody in something that was important to the Federation and less clunkily than the Betazoids, joining the Federation. It seems like we're going to be doing a lot of reuniting and causing the reunions. And I'm sort of agree with Eve that, or I do agree with Eve that it was kind of, here's the character, here's what's going on, here's the backstory, here's why you should care. And the problem I have with the episode is I still don't care about the characters enough to really feel as much as Michelle did. I also was a little, I think I forgot Discovery or something because I completely forgot about what happened to the Klingons. And I was like, that happened to the Klingons? That central race to all of us? And all I can hope is that they build back better and quickly so we can see them again.
They will. They are Klingon.
Yes.
With plastic foreheads, apparently, because I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
considering the makeup and prosthetics we have now, I don't know why, but the Klingons, to me in this one, their heads look like they're made of plastic, and it's driving me nuts.
Oh, that's funny. And am I crazy, or did this two father thing or multiple father thing, was that ever established?
I think this is the first time we've heard of something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
try
maybe it was a diaspora thing when the houses all got so destroyed that maybe they took in an extra dad who lost his family or something.
Well, we've seen something similar to that when the family of Martok and the House of Martok takes in Worf, and by extension,
Yeah.
Jadzia.
Yeah.
So there is a precedent there for that.
Yeah, so I can see that. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that.
And so, among the fans, do you think this episode has touched a nerve? And if so, why?
Once again, I think this was the most Star Trek of them. And I think it had all the elements on the surface of showing the cadets basically taking a thematic, this is what we're going to learn about, and have it applied directly to a major diplomatic issue.
Dallas, I wondered if this was a subject you wanted to address and talk about, since you suggested it as a question.
Yes, because I noticed some of the chatter sort of changed in tone and theme when it was being brought up. Less complaints about, oh, look, the captain draped on her captain's chair, and look, she's showing off her feet. Nah, it seemed to go the wayside. All of a sudden, well, both sides of the debate, left and right spectrum, seemed to have an issue with it. Whether it was the left feeling called out or the right just complaining, oh, it's woke, it's woke. So that stuck out to me. So I think, honestly, there were some points in that episode which might have rankled with a few and resonated with others. And you know what? I think the best Trek does that.
So, Eve, like you spoke about this a bit. Like, I had the question of how do you interpret the relationship between Darren Ramey and Jaden Cragg one question I've seen online is, who do you think Darren Ramey is? I know that Alex Kurtzman has spoken about, apparently, like, one of the cadets will turn out to be like a Prince character. So I'm thinking maybe that will be Darren Ramey, perhaps, but I don't know if that will pan out.
I could see that, because we do get a sense that, like, we have two cadets here who have very strong, like, family traditions. I'm not talking Jaden with his Klingon traditions. That's something else, because that's a species set of traditions. I'm talking, we have
Genesis?
Yes, thank you. I want to say Gemini, and I know, I'm like, no, that's Andromeda. That's a different one. Yeah, we have Genesis, who's, Admiral's daughter, and she comes across very much the overachieving Admiral's daughter. She's got to carry that mantle and everything, but it's very much a military family mindset that she's carrying. Whereas our Kionian friend, Ramey, he has that same strong family traditions, big family expectations on him, but he does come across way more aristocratic in the way he carries himself. Not just the arrogance, but it's an aristocratic kind of arrogance. Like, he's got, and at the same time, like, he's got something to prove. He acts like he has nothing to prove, but we can tell he's got something to prove there. So if somebody is a Prince character, I could see that happening. The biggest debate I saw online, which I thought was distracting from the point of the two characters, was, are they gay for each other? How gay are they for each other? And is everybody gay? Like, that's what I was seeing a lot of it. And I'm going, I did not interpret the scene between them as gay in any way. I did not interpret it in any way as,
sexual.
That type of intimacy. To me, I thought of it as, it was more, he was showing him a meditation, and Klingons do meditate. We know that. So that's not totally out to left field, as do other species. So I saw it as more, he was trying to give him a way to cope, because he was concerned, because we know underneath his arrogant self, just like Mir, that he actually does have a heart. So I didn't interpret the scene as gay, but I've been seeing a lot of that since this episode. Everybody's like, oh, they're gay. It's gay. It's gay. And I'm like, would you shut up? Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Well, we know by the third episode, we know that Darren Ramey is either like bisexual or pan. Basically.
Or he could be poly, like, because we've had poly species like the Denobulans, where they have such complicated families that nobody can figure it out. Yeah. But I mean, I don't get a sense at all that there's that he has that kind of interest in Jaden.
I thought they had no chemistry, so it didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, I don't know why the internet all of a sudden blows up with everybody,
Well, I think it's shipping.
Yeah. But I mean, you'd have a better chance of shipping, some of the other characters than those two.
And also, I noticed one of the people that were suggesting that they may be gay did cite, there's a scene in the previous episode 3 where they meet in a stairwell, and they thought maybe tied into that. There was a bit of tension between them. I think it seems like whether you think it's homosexual or homoerotic or whatever, there is tension there, and it's just like, why is that, I guess.
I agree.
I think they don't like each other, or didn't. Because no one likes Keone.
Barely anyone likes Ramey, because he's an arrogant prat. But, he has his moments. He is bright. He is an overachiever. He struggles. He tries really hard at everything he does. And he has that certain noble obligation, which motivates him.
I've also never gotten the sense of gay Klingons anyway. I'm not going to say the race is homophobic. It just, to me, that just seems a huge stretch for the species. Sort of like the idea of gay Vulcans doesn't make sense to me, because for Vulcans, mating and anything to do with mating is purely logical. They must mate to keep the species alive. They don't even like the process. So I think that to try and put like that kind of mantle on certain species is not going to work, because I could see betazoids being all over the place, and other races we haven't encountered. I can see trills being all over the place. I can't see that for Klingons, and I can't see that for Vulcans and certain species. It just would not make sense.
I know, I can see it with Klingons. They're definitely a follow your heart kind of species.
They are, but it's also a warrior's duty to provide more children for the lineage. They're very big on their houses and their lineage. You can't, and obviously even now there are gay families or lesbian families. They cannot directly produce their own offspring. One party can, donate, or they can adopt, but they can't come together and produce offspring. And Klingons are very much about house, lineage, who's who. They'll say Worf, son of Moog. They remind me a lot of the Nietzscheans in Andromeda, where they come on and introduce themselves, Tyr Anasazi out of Victoria by Barbarossa. Like, the lineage is so important. So you wouldn't see homosexuality in a species that lineage is such a strong tradition, because you can't keep lineage, because for them it's about blood. You can't keep blood going when you can't combine the two bloods. Like, purely from a scientific perspective, it doesn't work. And I've seen it with Vulcans too, where people try to put it on Vulcans, and I'm like, no, Vulcans are a logical species. Mating is a logical process, and they hate it because it takes away their logic. So I think people are, like I say, I think sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and some people need to stop, taking these things and running with it.
Regarding the Klingons, I wondered how you feel about like how they're portrayed in general, and I'll ask this question to you, Michelle. Do you think the episode included enough callbacks to previously established Klingon lore?
I think there was some, but with them being scattered, it's probably going to be quite difficult to keep up those traditions, because how it's interpreted by one group will be totally interpreted totally differently by another group. So the society needs to come together in order to basically combine those interpretations and reestablish those traditions. The tradition of honor still seems to be there, and that is something that's really important to the Klingons. Is that it's how they act has got to be honorable, and if it doesn't fit in with their honor, then they don't want to know.
I think there are certain. I'm sorry. I think there are certain groups that in a diaspora hang on to their traditions even tighter, so that they can be connected to the whole, even though they're not with them.
Bajorans.
So I would think that the Klingons would have their traditions, and I said earlier that I hadn't heard of this extra father, or a family that had two fathers, but this could just be expanding the traditions that were already supposed to have been a part of the evolution from the 24th century.
We've seen Klingon houses pivot too to survive, such as the House of Quark episode, where we finally see a Klingon matriarch for the first time. So, I mean, the Klingons are not, above sort of redefining what constitutes a house.
Right.
So, I think that's one criticism I had to the episode, even though I love the episode. I think it's my favorite that's come out so far. Certainly. And yeah, one thing I thought that I was a bit frustrated with it because of the lack of like, the sheer amount of like new elements of Klingon lore that are introduced, like even like the bird of prey and the bow, I think it is a crossbow. The
No, the bow isn't a crossbow. It's just a regular.
Oh, right.
It's just a regular wooden bow.
I see similar designs.
Something a bit more complex than that.
But then I'm thinking, well, the last time really we've seen Klingons portrayed as like 24th century, 25th century. So that's quite a long gap, for other stuff to come about. Obviously, the Klingons were based on the communist nations originally during the Cold War. Since they've clearly been strongly inspired by real-world international politics, do you think any of those can be seen here?
Alex, you have thoughts about that too. When you mentioned the political stuff.
I think they're, a stand-in for every migrant, every group that has been displaced by war, especially from the Middle East, Syria, or Northern Africa. They were very much a stand-in for that, and almost too much as sort of portraying a group in one way. But once again, Star Trek does that. So I thought that was in keeping with tradition.
I couldn't help but notice in the Next Generation, they did kind of change a little bit. Not just your standard communist bloc nation, but they seem to take on more of a medieval or Viking influence. And I could see that medieval influence in the latest episode, whether it's from the leatherwork of our Klingon warriors, quiller. I'm sorry, I lost the word for that. Or their clothing. There's a lot of medieval influence, a lot of Viking influence. And that's what I took away from it. Their warrior culture, no doubt about it. One that may seem just a tad anachronistic, but unique regardless.
It's interesting that they've kept up, a lot of their traditions where they don't use technology, because most Klingon traditional practices we've seen all through the series, I'm not counting the original because I don't think they really knew what they were doing there, except Klingons bad, Federation good. But once we started seeing like Klingon rituals and Klingon culture, like all of their hunting, all of their defense and stuff like that, sure, they have had disruptors and they do have ships to go out into space. But for the most part, they tend to rely on what they can take and make from their environment. Like, in a way, they're almost like the ultimate survivalists. Even the idea of using herbs and things is not new to Klingon culture for healing. They tend to, I think it's along lines of they see technology almost as the easy way out, or giving them an advantage that they haven't earned. Whereas there's something more to be said about, going out and shooting your dinner with a bow. Because I work with a guy and he does hunt, and he hunts both with a gun and a bow. And part of the reason he does it with the bow is because it's much more difficult to hunt with a bow, because he said, you've got one shot to bring it down.
It was established in Birthright Part 2 that I know there was a writer who contributed story material for that episode, George Bozak, and he advised the writers, was it Hans Beimler or Renee? I think it was Renee Echeverria, because he remembered from his youth having been taken on hunts and stuff, in real world. For me personally, it did a bit remind me of the Zindi, because I was like, wasn't there a Zindi diaspora? They lost their homeworld.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they reacted quite differently.
Yeah.
Although, once again, I think because there was so much emphasis on how Klingons were going extinct and there are so few of them, that it reminded me much more of today than the Zindi were much more post 9/11 in their conception. So more powerful enemies that hated us for what we are, or in this case, they needed a new homeworld and domination.
But still, I think
the Zindi were also multiple species combined.
Yeah.
There was
But
but I agree overall, Dan, with what you're saying.
Well, the Klingon Empire consisted of multiple species also. But yeah, like I would think probably the Klingons, you know, like they clearly like refuse Federation charity. You know, they're a bit isolationist, and I guess like I can see why that would be, since the burn originated, you know, in Federation space. Which do you think is more likely, and why? Crag's house being depicted as having two patriarchs is simply due to two houses coming together due to the burn? Or has there always been polyamorous Klingon houses, and this is just the first we're hearing of it?
My thought still stands that it was more of a necessity to ensure the survival of the house, because the houses are tradition. It's how the Klingons are organized. I see it as it was something they did out of necessity for survival, because we've seen them pivot before to redefine who owns the houses. And like I said, I do not for 1 second get the sense that we would have polyamorous Klingons. It's, you know, it just doesn't fit with what we know about them, because of their extreme, you know, beliefs, like especially to do with bloodlines, and sharing the same DNA is what defines your bloodline more so than anything else. So I honestly don't see it as this is a case where I think a cigar is just a cigar. I'm going to stand on that.
I definitely felt that it was something after post-burn, because I couldn't track it with anything else I had ever seen about the Klingons. And I thought it was interesting introducing a pacifist Klingon. It's not quite that, obviously, but in the first episode. So I was basically thinking this is the Klingon version that we're getting from this world, this story.
We've had a Ferengi scientist in the past, so a pacifist Klingon really isn't that far.
Yeah, with the Klingons, Crag, it's come to my attention recently that there has been quite a prominent Klingon doctor before, which was Dr. Antak in the Enterprise, and there's quite a long history of pacifist Klingons with I forget his name now. Who was the Klingon established, I think, in DC Comics, certainly in the comics. Yeah, I think it was DC. And, you know, we've also had, like, Worf, you know, move to joining pacifism in Star Trek Picard, Season 3.
And also, we've seen Klingon lawyers in both Enterprise and in the Undiscovered Country.
And that there is Klingons in a nutshell, because like he says in this show, there is many different kinds of battle, just like there's many kinds of warriors. A doctor could be seen as battling death, you know, in a different sense than battling a physical enemy. I remember seeing years ago in some Star Trek page, somebody made the idea that, you know, the most feared warrior on Kronos could be a Klingon mental health expert, because he's, you know, he's teaching them to fight the ultimate battle against the mind. And, you know, so to me, Klingon doctor is just another kind of warrior. A Klingon lawyer is a warrior in words. You know,
I think they had to bring up the warrior in words theme, which was very heavy in this episode, to fill out Jaden in the way, Eve, that you're talking about Klingons.
Yeah.
So, like I said at the beginning, he just seemed like a pacifist, and now it's a little more clear what kind of warrior he is.
I have to wonder though if they deliberately chose an actor with a slight build to reinforce the idea of him being a pacifist, because we don't usually see skinny Klingons.
That's true.
Like even his brother is depicted as being rather burly. His dad's rather burly. His mom's got meat on her bones. Like we don't see, it's like seeing a fat Andorian. We just don't see it. So I'm kind of wondering if partly they went with a slighter build actor to sort of reinforce this idea that he is not a warrior in the typical sense, because he doesn't have that huge. Because I mean, we see Nala next to that other Klingon.
Oh,
He's
God.
like what? He's like what? Double her size.
Well, Holly Hunter is like 5 feet, so it's amazing that it doesn't come out more often.
I was going to add that Jadzia Dax, as an outside observer of Klingon culture, she made mention that there's, plenty of room for nuance and subtlety within the Klingon, culture in general. There are pacifist Klingons. There are cowardly Klingons. She's noted that as well. And I think that's a good thing to explore those nuances with the Klingons. It makes them less of a monoculture. Forehead plated alien. But at the same time, there's still limits in TV. You kind of have to cliff note it in order to make the species stand out.
Speaking of limits, why is it every time we're seeing a new species in the show that we've seen before, somebody has to throw in a line about their mating practices? That's getting a little stupid. It's kind of like they're trying to shove it in there to try and make you laugh. Like, first we have the Betazoid. Oh, Betazoid weddings are naked. Now we've got the Klingon. We have violent mating ritual. Like, why do we have to have this every episode? Like, I'm sorry, that's just sticking out to me. Like, here's species, and here's how they mate, and it's supposed to be funny.
Didn't they mention Jay and Silent Bob? Homeboy met an alien. Well, yeah, I think they pointed out, I think us humans, we kind of want to anthropomorphize beautiful alien species and wonder what it'd be like to get freaky with them on occasion.
I guess you could.
It's how we do.
Sorry. I guess you could say, like, I've been waiting for this episode for a very long time, whether it be like the first appearance of the 32nd century Klingons, which I was waiting for 3 seasons in Discovery for. They never showed up. They're mentioned quite a few times, but they never appear. But also, I've been waiting like ever since the 90s for like Krios Prime to finally appear. I'd be fascinated in that planet. And like this episode finally delivers it using, it looks like filming location like in Canada, maybe.
Looks like
yeah.
a Columbia interior. It actually
I was thinking
it looks
that.
a lot like where I'm from. My first thought was, oh, this looks like the BC interior.
Cool.
Like the vegetation, the rocks, the dryness, like all of that would actually line up with British Columbia. If it's not British Columbia, it's definitely Canada, but it looks like British Columbia to me.
Oh yeah, quite gorgeous.
With the Klingons, like the idea of a Klingon lore also reminded me of there's one in the Deep Space Nine episode, Rules of Engagement. There's quite a few connections to Deep Space Nine, like connecting over like old friends connecting. It seems like connecting over bloodline, over a larger sort of geopolitical Klingon situation, harking back to the Way of the Warrior, with a planet being offered. I think you can speak about this, Michelle.
I thought that by the offering of the planet took me back to DS9's second season episode Sanctuary, where the Skria come through the wormhole and they're offered Draelon 2, but then they decide they want to settle in Bajor, and they have this whole fight. But you don't have that, we want to settle somewhere else. Here, you've got the offer of a planet, but you're dealing with stubborn Klingon pride. So you need to actually respect the tradition in order to actually get them to accept the offer.
I think it circles back to that survivalist thing that Eve mentioned.
Yeah.
These are species that don't want to take charity. They want to earn their keep.
Yeah.
And conquest is a way to earn it.
Yeah. So
speaking of that, how early did people here get that they were going to have to fight for the planet, that this was going to be the solution?
Right from the get-go. Klingons don't take handouts. But I was a little disappointed in the fight because I'm like, okay, it almost came across as a bit of tokenism to me because it wasn't really a fight. It was more like the pretense of a fight. And I'm like, considering how deep Klingon honor runs, I was expecting a little bit more of a fight, like not necessarily casualties, unless it was some injuries. But I was expecting, some injuries, some damaged ships, not, oh, the shields are 95%. Let's back off and let them have it. Like, to me, that seemed like they weren't, like, the writers were in a hurry, ran out of time, and just needed to satisfy this, one detail. Because I can't see true, like, while the ambassador Klingon, I'm calling him an ambassador because to me he is, the ambassador Klingon, while he knew what was going on and he was playing along with it, the others wouldn't necessarily be like that. So to me, I could see a lot of them thinking it was too easy. It was still just being handed to them. It just didn't seem like they did it right. Like there should have been more of a fight there. Like maybe some hand to hand or something, like something interesting that would satisfy Honor.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the wedding between Worf and Dax, and how some of the ceremonies there were symbolic in nature. Like let's beat the groom with a bunch of cudgels. That's a very symbolic gesture. The same could also apply to this incident where Fall Prime is being conquered by the Klingons. It's also symbolic.
You mean sort of like when she's got the candle, Jadzia has the candles, and Worf asks her if they're genuine, and she's like, "Yes, I went and slaughtered the animal myself and rendered them." And she's like, "Of course they're replicated."
Of course, Sorella saw right through that.
Yeah, she did, and she was upset about it. Like, don't you bring your cheap imitations here and tell me you're satisfying. That's why it kind of. I'm like, there would be some Klingons, not all, but there'd be some Klingons who'd be a little bit, this wasn't quite, what we were looking for.
It seemed to me a bit like, like the start of Discovery, where like the Burnham is recommending that they feign like an attack, the Vulcan hello, because it'll be considered honourable by the Klingons.
Yeah, I also thought that scene with Nala Ake and the Klingon ambassador, whatever you want to call him, and getting him drunk on blood wine was reminiscent of Worf speaking to an old friend in Way of the Warrior and getting him drunk in order to get information. And then Chief O'Brien did something similar in season 7 of TS9.
Oh, to the point where
what was bothering Worf, and what better way of getting information than to get someone drunk.
I love that. To the point where even when O'Brien approaches Worf's door with bottled blood wine, Worf dreads it. Oh no. Like, I'm going to have to outdrink the Irishman again. Oh no.
And then it takes about 3 bottles before you can actually get anything out of them.
Speaking of Nala and the Klingon ambassador, if people were looking for romance or some kind of sexual,
well, there was definitely
that was them. Like, I'm like, what? And I haven't seen that come up much in the comments. It's all been focused on Raimi and Jaden. And I'm thinking, what? You guys missed the obvious one there?
Right.
Like, which to me, I was a little bit uncomfortable too, because I'm like, hey, wasn't she his like mentor or something? It was said. So I'm like, okay, was there like the teacher student thing? That's a little bit. But like, I'm like, how did people miss that obvious one?
Well, I could actually see that he was his mentor at first, and then later on he, surpassed the teacher, and that's when they were more equals and got together or something like that. So I could see that, but it was a little creepy.
Yeah.
Especially the beard touching thing. Just in that it sent a signal that was the way to sort of convince somebody, have that kind of relationship. And if you didn't, maybe you do. So I just found it a little weird and creepy.
Yeah.
With the Deep Space Nine connections, I thought it was cool that you see, like, I think it's Klingon freighters, that reappear from the DS9 episodes, Sons and Daughters in the 6th season, and they reappear like in that battle sequence. And regarding ships, like the Klingon ships include ships from Star Trek Online, which I know canon Star Trek, televised Star Trek, has taken ships quite a few times and made them canon by including them from Star Trek Online.
We had a USS Riker.
Yeah.
But some of the ships in the shot look kind of like corn cobs or were somewhat phallic shaped. So that kind of jumped out at me because I said that to Dallas. I'm like, why are some of those ships kind of, shaped like something?
I thought it's cool as well. I noticed Adam Eisenberg's widow pointed out that there's the Eisenberg class reappears in the Federation fleet.
I'd also note that freighter that we saw so much of in the latest episode, that was also the same design that Gul Dukat got demoted to.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to recall the name of that freighter.
Grumal,
yeah.
And of course, that one's also available in Star Trek Online as the Tuffley class freighter. Tuffli.
What does each character's debate style reveal about them? We have a person joining us. Welcome, Marcelo.
Hey guys.
Hi there.
Marcelo, long time no see, man.
Hey, how you guys doing?
So, Eve, do you want to take this one? What do each character's debate style reveal about them?
Well, we didn't get to see too much of a couple of the characters, but some of it really, like the whole debate thing stood out to me anyway. I mean, you had Genesis, who was very much to the point, efficient. And we had, Raimi, he manages to beat her. And then he's kind of, all bragging about it, which totally fits their characters. For her, it was, I debated, I win, I lose, but I debated, I'm done. He was very much, yo, look at me, everyone, which is very much his character. So there's no change there. I would have liked to see a little bit more from Sam because with her being as, portrayed as born yesterday, literally, that could have been more interesting. I think she was kind of sidelined a little bit there. But looking at like Jaden and looking at especially Mir's got a very interesting debate style. It's very, he can quote the rules, he can quote the regulations, the statistics, the data. He's got a very logical and unemotional style for the most part. And if you look at his stance, like the others when they're debating, they're standing there, they're upright, they're they have what you would consider a proper talking presence for a debate. He's just kind of casually leaning there like he doesn't, like he thinks that nobody can debate him. He that his opinions are, better than everyone else. He's already won. This is kind of the attitude I get from him.
Very Kirk-like, I think.
Very, very Kirk-like, but the thing is, his arrogance is a different kind than Kirk's. His is an arrogance that he's learned in prison and everywhere else. Because like he says, in prison, you have to learn how to, do these things. And growing up with a parent who was a prison guard, I can tell you, prisoners become some of the most educated people sometimes because they got nothing better to do. And a lot of times, rules is what they educate themselves on because they love using the rule book to get their way to beat people over the head. And so Mir has a very prison-like style. But he's also very, he's sitting there. He's very casual. He's just leaning over the podium. He's not always meeting the eye of his opponent. And then Jaden, initially, he's quite nervous, which fits with what we've got. He doesn't know who he is yet. He's not sure of who he is. Later on, he becomes more of the forceful Klingon that we expect. But for Mir, I thought it was really telling about his character. It shows us a lot about who he is and how he still thinks of people and how he relates to them. Because he came in basically assuming he's going to win. He can sit there and throw things at you all day long. He would be a formidable debater, but he also, like I say, has a bit of a disregard for everyone just by the way his body language is. So it kind of stuck out to me.
Marcelo, what are your general thoughts about the episode? Did you enjoy it?
I really, really enjoyed this episode. I really like the work that the writers did on Jaden, and I really, really like the fact that when he first goes up to debate, he's like really, really nervous. He comes on the bleeding edge of almost having a panic attack. I really related to that because before I started YouTube and before I started becoming social online and any like really, really big social setting with a lot of people, I would have many panic attacks. So I really, really appreciated the low stakes of this episode, and it was a really, really kind of classic Trek episode. It reminded me a lot of the Drumhead in interesting ways. And I also no, but I just really enjoyed this episode. Not as much as last week, but I thought that this episode was a step in the right direction. And I also really enjoyed that Captain Ake was in uniform for most of the episode. So that really made me happy.
I don't know. I kind of like the way she's so off-putting, but because I was wondering how they would do a Lanthanite, considering the only Lanthanite we've had so far is Pelia. But I like how certain things seem to fit the species, including their love of collecting antiques. Like you notice in every shot of her quarters, we see that beautiful phonograph player. You know, and in a time when they have digital recordings of everything, she prefers that old school thing, or her wearing glasses, stuff like that, her reading a book. I like that they kept certain traits. And so I honestly think the irreverence is the same idea. Like her and the Doctor are both the longest living people we have at this point, and they have very different ways. She's very irreverent and casual, whereas the Doctor's almost more aggressive and acerbic than he even was on Voyager. You know, he's calling them zygotes. Like, come on.
I sometimes have to wonder how much of it is that irreverence is to kind of tweak the nose of those who get uptight about the Starfleet paramilitary style, button-up tightness about them, you know? Just because it has been a fan base who has looked at her approach, Captain Ake's approach, as unprofessional. I get that. When you're in a paramilitary organization, you have to show a certain amount of decorum and discipline. But at the same time, Star Trek is not your typical animal. It's showing that even being this irreverent, being this loose, you can still find a place to help and be part of Starfleet.
And I also, I'm sorry. I also think that she's Chancellor. She's not captain of a ship. And when she is on a ship, or as she was when Caleb was a kid, she seemed very military in the opening scenes in the first episode. So it seems as though her current position and the fact that they can't get anybody to do it, but she's trying, gives her more latitude.
I think it also is for a contrast against the War College Chancellor, because he's the opposite. I mean, guy's got a stick so far up his butt, he might as well be a Muppet. So
I thought it's cool how online some fans have pointed out that both Nala Ake and Pelia in Strange New Worlds have mentioned fandom, or have, I think you see it in like vinyl covers in Ake's case, a fandom of the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
there is that.
Sorry.
There is that hippie-ish thing.
Mm-hmm. I think that goes back to the origins of Star Trek in a way, because it was ongoing then.
And with certain people, you can't win anyway, because if she had been depicted as sitting proper and straight in that chair, Holly Hunter's 5'2",
5'1",
myself, and it's possible that if she sat upright, her feet would not touch the ground. And you'd have something to say about her feet not touching the ground.
Oh yeah, she would look tiny in that chair.
Yeah,
it's huge.
In some ways, the way she's actually acted it out with the more laid-back approach possibly works for her.
She's 5. I know. I looked up the heights. She's 5'3", and the guy who's playing the clown diplomat is 6'2". But people were commenting, he's wearing quite big boots as well that gives him extra height.
Well, the Klingons all wear those humongous boots, though. It's the same as what they did with Saru. Like they had Doug Jones, who's already a very tall, lanky actor, and they put him in high heels to make him even taller. So, I mean, but the Klingons, we've always seen them with those giant, almost like Kiss boots from the band Kiss. Like that's what their boots remind me of. Although his boots didn't have the horn on the toes. Like I was looking for the horn on the toes. I'm like, there's no horns on these Klingons. None of the Klingons had horns on their toes.
I
So
guess
I'm
you just have to kick his enemies with steel toes then.
Yeah.
Well, there was a debate I remember about whether or not Klingons actually have a horn on their foot or whether it's just something on the boot that's sort of a warrior's thing. So maybe it was something that was just a warrior's thing and it wasn't that they had horns on their feet.
I never saw that debate.
Eve, you asked the question, why did the line, ignoring reality doesn't make it go away, get the Doctor's attention and allow them to debate the Klingon situation, which he was against?
Well, because the Doctor was very, like, I get why the Doctor was against debating it because it was a hot topic, but at the same time, the arguments the cadets were making against him were logical. People are talking about it out there, might as well talk about it in here. People, it's already out in the open. You know, they're making logical arguments and the Doctor keeps going back. And then all of a sudden they say, well, ignoring reality doesn't make the reality go away. And you notice the Doctor kind of stops and all of a sudden he changes. And I'm kind of wondering if it's because maybe he was reminded of the diaspora of his own people, the photonics, because he went through that in Voyager when he found out that all the, I think he's a Mark IV or whatever, or Mark, I can't remember which Mark he is. Mark 1. Okay, I couldn't remember which model he is. But when he found out that all the Mark 1s had been basically made obsolete and essentially exiled and turned into sort of a slave labor force.
Yeah.
Then he got really into the rights of the photonics, and he even had to fight with the Voyager crew when they were, you know, were just like, well, that's reality, was their attitude. And he's like, yeah, well, just because it's, you know, it's there, we can't ignore it, because if we ignore it, it doesn't change it. So I was seeing kind of a parallel there, and maybe that was why the Doctor allowed them to debate it after all, was he remembered, like, my people went through this and we're only now 900 years in the future getting the first photonics other than me recognized, because Sam is the first photonic citizen that we really have. So I just noticed that it all of a sudden halted him and he turned, and I thought maybe it's the same thing. Plus the original quote, because Dallas was saying this was political, the original quote was Ayn Rand, the author Ayn Rand, who was a very political writer.
And a very libertarian one.
Yeah.
Phyllis, I was thinking about how you were you co-wrote author where the Doctor like argues for photonic rights. I was wondering like how you feel the Doctor's evolved since then.
I hadn't really until this exchange on this episode, I hadn't really seen his crusading side as much. I think he feels more comfortable in being accepted, and he feels less photonic, actually. As though, you know, there's never a mention of a mobile emitter or anything on Sam or him or any of that. So I feel as though they aren't playing to that as much, but it's kind of assumed. And I did flash back to author in this exchange, in the debate exchange, and thought, wait a second, because he says it when I was on Voyager, I created myself, I had to fight for my rights, etc. And I thought actually it was interesting that he opened with that to support the idea of a debate, and then didn't go to that when the topic of the Klingon diaspora came up. That was almost like he was going, I'm supposed to be like this as a teacher, and then this just doesn't sound like it's going to be a good educational experience.
You just got me thinking. I'm wondering if the mobile emitter now is internal, like Arnold Rimmer in Red Dwarf.
Yeah, because I noticed in the first episode there's no mobile emitter, and I'm like, how is he walking around with no mobile emitter? Do they just have emitters everywhere now?
Possibly. Yeah.
That's quite possible. I mean, that would be something that that would be something that think they could have like pointed out probably in the early episodes. But if they have if they have mobile emitters all over the place, when they were attacked in the pilot episode, some of those emitters would have gone offline. So if that were indeed the case, why didn't he go offline? But I guess maybe it's something that we're going to find out maybe later in the series.
Because the Doctor seems a little bit uncomfortable with being reminded he's photonic because his initial interaction with Sam, she's very like excited to meet another photonic and have a photonic mentor and everything else. And he kind of blows her off like, go away, you flea. Like he kind of, he's very dismissive towards her. I mean, the Doctor's always been played as having a bad attitude. That was part of his character. But, I kind of wonder if maybe up until this episode, he'd gotten a little too comfortable and forgotten what it's like to be
I think that's
displaced.
fair.
Like he forgot what it's like to be displaced and othered and pushed aside. I think he got too comfortable in the last 900 years.
That could be, that could be quite possible. But also, Sam as a character is a bit too much for me. So I could so I could totally see someone like the Doctor being dismissive to her when they first initially meet. But as they get to know each other, I bet you he's going to warm up to her.
She's a bit of a tendy. She comes on very strong, but you end up liking her because you realize it's just who she is. I mean, in Sam's case, she was literally born yesterday. So,
right.
I speculate she's a neurodivergent stand-in. Something that we can relate to.
Interesting.
And sometimes that can come off as a little bit intense.
I think you said the first episode, Dallas, that you sit up there and you were like, "Oh, she's the new Data." I think was what you put it as.
There's got to be one. The outsider's a bit off, so to speak.
But I think that I have an issue with the Doctor just now because I'm like, so I've been commonly referring to him as the Doctor. I noticed, there's a Star Trek author called Keith R.A. DeCandido, and he reviewed this particular episode, and he referred to the Doctor as the AMH, which I thought, well, you've got like ECH in Voyager, if the function of the program
his fantasy
differed,
where he's the command hologram,
then that would suggest the initials would be changed to reflect the change in function. In that case, obviously, it's emergency command hologram. But I'm like, well, you could see it as someone also mentioned. Well, the problem with the Doctor is they prefer. They wish that he hadn't been known as the Doctor because they like to think of the Doctor in Doctor Who as the only Doctor,
Right.
one and only Doctor. But I thought, well, you could, with EMH, you could say, well, maybe it represents educational master hologram or something like that, perhaps. But yeah, I think they should probably establish, well, is he still referred to as an AMH? Or is he referred to by some other abbreviation, perhaps? Or,
well,
it's a bit unclear.
That would work because Sam's name is an abbreviation.
Mm-hmm.
Because he initially calls her by the full name and then corrects himself to Sam. So it could be. Now you're making me think of that episode because I always found that episode with the emergency command hologram funny. Just the way they did it, and he gets the pick, bang, bang, bang.
Arm the photonic cannon.
Yeah.
And it has been it's been great to discuss this episode with you. It has been established elsewhere. I know it's been revealed that the next episode will be the Cisco episode. But for now, I think it's time to wrap up. And we hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please click the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed the rest of the season. Kapla! Track you later.